How do guys? Welcome back to the channel. It has been a while since my last upload, but I'm back, and today I'm going to be talking about 9.1 and the tanks that I'm planning on maining pretty much. So there's going to be 3 in total, and I'm just going to give you a little overview of what they are, my reasons for it. So without any further ado, let's jump into the video. First off, it's important to establish my goals for 9.1 and what kind of content I'm aiming for. So my number one priority will be raiding, going into Mythic. However, I also dabble a little bit more these days in Mythic Plus, since it's becoming more of a staple of top end progression. It seems to be more and more with each expansion, to be quite honest with you. And previously I've not been a fan of Mythic Plus per se, but now that it's a little more needed, I've dipped into it a little bit as a tank, and I found it really enjoyable, to be fair. Like with the new affixes, like I've really enjoyed Prideful, and this season I'd really want to go for Keystone Masters. I didn't do it last time because I got quite burnt out quite quickly, to be very honest, with the beginning of Shadowlands. But moving on from that, without further ado, let's jump into my first pick. So choice number 1 for me is going to be a Vengeance Demon Hunter. Now, with my Vengeance Demon Hunter being my most geared tank currently, to the prize of absolutely nobody at all who'd have thought that a tank main wouldn't be playing the meta tank in 9.0 these days. That being said though, I believe that the damage that Vengeance Demon Hunter brings over something maybe more tanky like a Guardian Druid or a Brewmaster Monk is actually a big part of what makes me want to keep playing it. Its strengths include amazing mobility, CC effects, very effective cooldowns, and a raid debuff. As stated before as well, they do quite good damage. Now, with Havoc maybe making a little bit of a resurgence for 9.1, it could mean that on a wider spectrum, Vengeance Demon Hunter might end up losing its spot for a tank with a little more survivability. But since my guild doesn't currently have a Havoc Demon Hunter, this one would be my main choice for raid progress. Unfortunately, I don't see it being as dominant as it was in 9.0, because not only have Vengeance Demon Hunters been consistently tweaked, and in some instances even nerfed, other tanks have been made stronger and will most likely scale better in future patches. And PS, Vengeance Demon Hunter is actually pretty squishy. That being said though, like all classes, if played well, it can work, and every tank is pretty much viable for anything up to 15s at this point. Like, especially going into the patch stronger, it's going to be easier to get up to the level where you're able to, you know, efficiently farm your 15s and stuff like that, I'm imagining, because this is going to be my first season trying for it, but I imagine it's going to be a lot easier, sort of like raiding in the second season rather than the first, because obviously it's a fresh expansion this time, going in a little bit more prepared. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so moving on from Vengeance Demon Hunter, I'm going to take you into my next pick, and it's pretty much going to be my main alt tank for 9.1. So choice number 2 for me is without a doubt going to be the Guardian Druid. Now, I can't actually look at myself in the mirror and tell myself that I want to dabble further into Mythic Plus without the thought of a big brolic bear entering my head. So for me, it's literally a no-brainer. Being a feral tank since Wrath until BFA, and secretly missing my big fluffy friend, I'm actually ecstatic that Guardian's finally coming into its own again. Now, the strength of the Guardian Druid when it comes to raiding aren't as prominent as like stuff like Stampeding Raw comes with all Druid specs, and Soothe as well. And it's unlikely that there won't be another Druid in your team. However, they are extremely durable with their wide array of damage reductions, and for argument's sake, we could just say that they do bring Stampeding Raw and Soothe. But with that, they also bring a very minimal amount of damage as well, which is sort of like a downside. It's not the biggest damage dealer, but again, if played well, sure, you can min-max and stuff like that. But if you're going for output, like output tanks, then, you know, this probably isn't going to be your best bet. But in Mythic Plus, however, how can you even compete with Guardian survivability with Ursoc's Fury Remembered, Legendary Incarnation, Uncapped Thrash AoE, and Fat Shields? It really is second to none as far as survivability goes, in my opinion, and can do half decent damage in Mythic Plus at least. Stampede and Soothe will be much more appreciated as well, obviously with a smaller group size. And the only real letdown for a Guardian for me is, again, the damage output. But as a tank, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It leaves your key at the first sign of adversity. Okay, that's going to lead us into choice number 3, which for me is going to be the Protection Warrior. This literally happens to me every single expansion, right? I completely decide against a warrior for the first patch of the expansion, only to realise that come the second patch that it would have been one of the best investments to make early on, gearing a prot warrior. It's often the case that a pot warrior comes into its own the further the expansion progresses, and this is the exact same scenario. This will again be primarily for Mythic Plus, and the strengths of a warrior include the following. It has the strongest physical damage reduction in the game with shield block, and given its new reprisal effect, this looks like it could be incredibly strong. It has a spell reflect. This ability really is a reason to play prot warrior on its own because it's broken, and I love it more than AMZ because it's only for me. It has amazing damage output, which is very often the case with a warrior. They're gifted with the blessing of godlike deeps, and that only seems to improve the more the expansions progress. And even fantastic mobility as well with heroic leap, charge, intercept. However, with a warrior, like many classes, it needs to be managed properly, especially using your defensives, as outside of mitigation you can struggle quite a lot, and due to no self-healing really, it can be very healer reliant, unlike the other two tanks that I've chosen. However, just how fun a prot warrior is to play is a big factor in my final decision, and all this being said, I actually haven't even maxed out my protection warrior yet, but let me just say I am absolutely buzzing to get it done, especially with 9.1 coming. Gonna leech all of that free gear that comes with a new patch, and then I'm going to start working my way up with all three of those tanks. So there we have it, guys. Those are my 3 picks for the tanks that I'm looking forward to playing in 9.1. I'm really looking forward to raiding and Mythic Plusing with them all and experiencing the new content the Chains of Domination has to offer. I do understand that this has been quite vague and brief on the classes that I've actually chose to play, but as the patch goes on, I'll most likely release guides on the classes that I'm playing. And that being said, have you picked any different tanks or specs to play? Let me know in the comments and tell me what makes you gravitate towards that class. However, that is it from me today. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and maybe even sub for more content in the future. I'll be releasing a video on what I believe the tank meta is going to look like probably later this week, coming 9.1. I'll be making guides on raids and the new mega dungeon. I may even record my progress to Keystone Master as like a little mini series, I'm not too sure yet. But until then though, guys, bye for now, and thanks again for watching. Have a good day.